Welcome back to the Mina Show featuring Lenny, the only NFL podcast where one of the hosts thinks Katie Ledecky and Simone Biles should be called Golden Retrievers. Get it?
Okay. I was wondering where you were going. I like that one. That one's good.
That's Lenny. We're doing Olympics jokes in honor of the games, which we are very obsessed with here in the Kimes Lenny household. That other voice you heard was new ESPN employee Ben Solak. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's been a long road since I think I was at Bleeding Green Nation first time I ever came on the show, talking a little Carson Wentz to Indianapolis. Man, it's been a bit.
Whoo, really? Oh my goodness. Well, yeah. I said welcome. You've been on the show before many times, and you're going to be on the show a lot during the NFL season, which I'm extremely pumped about. We're firmly into the 2 times a week schedule right now. Week 1, Dominic Foxworth will return on Tuesdays. I'm excited about having you on all of the time to review the games a lot of the time. That's going to be really exciting. Equally exciting is you are back at work after having a child who is now 3 months?
11 weeks. 11 weeks
11
tomorrow.
weeks.
I did my first radio hit since I came back this morning for ESPN National Radio, and she started screaming like 5 minutes in. And I was like, all right, good. We broke the seal. We got it out of the way. This is going to be fine. It's going to be great.
People have noted that sometimes my voice has dropped over the last, I guess, couple of months. And a lot of that is me being paranoid about waking up the baby. And you get this kind of ASMR Mina. He woke up just now, by the way. So we're good for this episode. I did want to say one quick thing about your, first of all, congratulations. I congratulate you when it happened, but I'm going to congratulate you again. I was listening to your Goodbye Pod with the great Sheil Kapadia from the Ringer where you used to work. And you guys talked a little bit about kids at the end. And you mentioned that people are always like telling you it's only getting harder from here. As somebody who is 6 months, 7 months into your future, it has gotten way easier, dude. You are in the hardest part right now. I just want you to know that.
You've been a very clear messenger since day one, where like I'm like, how's she going? How's it going? How's pregnancy? Whatever. Then you'd be like, listen, the first 3 months, awful, terrible, won't sleep, the worst. Just get through it. I believe in you. Like, your messaging has been very clear since the beginning, which I appreciate.
Well, you are about to enter the golden.
We're going through a pretty good sleep regression right now, where like she was having bad sleep, and then we figured out some good techniques. She had some good sleep, and the last few nights she's been up every 2 hours, and you're just looking at her like, dude.
4 months. 4 months is when that switch flips. So it's very soon for you. Okay. We are less than 1 month away, or actually exactly 1 month from the beginning of the NFL season. We actually have football. We had the Hall of Fame game. We are not here to break down the Hall of Fame game.
I was like, you see that Brett Rippon? Colin Johnson? Let's go.
I'm on NFL Live today, and we're going to talk about the kickoff, but we're not going to really talk about much beyond that because
kickoff, a little bit of a flat debut. I think they'll be better later, but I was pretty disappointed early.
Well, yeah, actually, you know what? Like, let's hit that. It's hard to assess, not just, I think, because the special teams coordinators are all probably going to be very paranoid during the preseason and not show us any of the sweeps and the weird blocking schemes and all of that. It was pretty straightforward in the Hall of Fame game. They did get a lot of guys returning. And I don't think that actually is either predictive either, because it's preseason. They want people to return just so, they're assessing people for their jobs and whatnot. But also, Ben, I think like what we don't know yet is who is actually going to be on the field for these kickoffs, because in high leverage situations, if there's an opportunity and a necessity, we're not seeing onside kicks anymore, you might actually see more starters, not just as returners, but also blocking. But again, we won't know based on the preseason, especially because I think some of these teams will be more experimental during like joint practices and scrimmages and things like that.
Yeah, and I think the point you make about trying out different people at returners is a really important deal. We always talk about this time of year. How do you make the 53 be good on teams, right? Okay, if you have the ability to be a gunner on the punt team, like that'll keep you on the active roster. If you can return kicks, whatever. This is a new return for not just us as viewers, but also like guys who return kicks aren't used to seeing it this way. They aren't used to seeing the bodies look like this and angles look like that. So you got to throw everybody out there and see who can pick it up quick. And if you're able to do that as the 6th string wide receiver, the 4th string running back, or the 5th string cornerback, you have the ability now to actually like make a little spot for yourself on that roster. And so I think you'll see, right, a lot of teams put a lot of different players back there for the preseason to return the kicks, and they won't do special stuff because you want to see who can just like handle this on their own. And then, right,
Yeah.
when you get to week 5 and you need to get a good field position in the fourth quarter, that's where you pull out that thing you've been designing for a couple months.
It's such a unique, situation for returners spatially,
Yeah.
just like so much of what they do is based on vision and knowing, okay, this person is going to be in my face at this point in this many seconds based on this amount of distance, and that's all been thrown out the window. So yeah, I don't think we even know what kind of what kind of players are ideal to return for
Right.
this. So that's gonna be really interesting to see in the coming weeks. And that's all we have to say about that at the moment, because we are here not to talk about the preseason or the kickoff rules. Uh, I asked you on to talk about the NFL awards for the upcoming season.
Mhm.
And I just feel this is a way to kind of get into how we feel about the season generally, like the players, coaches, rookies, executives who we think will have success this year, quite frankly. It's just
Mhm.
not betting advice. Although I did look at the odds to kind of just get a feel for, because
Yeah.
so what I asked you to do was to pick your actual pick, the favorite. It's a lot of boring choices on my end for some of these awards. And then to pick one like dark horse, which is I thought was quite fun
I spent
actually.
remarkably more time on my dark
Yeah, same
horses
here.
than I did on my favorites.
The dark horses were a lot more interesting to me, although we might define dark horses differently too, because some
Mhm.
of my dark horses are on the betting list. They're just further down,
Yeah, that's
So
about what I did. Yeah.
yeah, I wasn't like dark horse MVP, Aiden O'Connell. We're not trying to be
I'll
like
talk myself into it. I can get there.
super wild.
Vontae Adams, good
I, s-
line.
I sort of talked myself into Aiden O'Connell a little bit on the AFC West preview
I saw
pod
you
last
tweet an
week.
Aiden O'Connell clip in July, and I was like, Mina, come on now. What is this?
The game never rests. Okay, so we're going to do MVP, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, offensive rookie of the year, defensive rookie of the year, coach of the year, assistant coach of the year, which is I actually think really interesting and really
Oh,
important,
yeah.
especially when we'll get to that, and then executive of the year, which is and then I'm no longer acknowledging the existence of comeback player of the year.
Oh, yeah. We're out on comeback player of the year. It's such a great year for it. Richardson, Kyler,
Well,
Rogers.
now
There's
that
so
we've
many people. Yeah.
clarified that it's actually injuries,
Yeah.
maybe that is
Not
is
just
lending a little
badness.
bit more to it. Let's start with MVP.
Mhm.
Okay, let me just ask you straight up. So we're gonna start with our actual picks. Is it someone other than Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, I like Josh Allen for this award this year.
Ooh,
Uh,
I like that.
I
Okay.
think that I think when I look at MVP awards, especially for picking the favorites, I really like to look at narratives, right? I think that this is hugely a narrative award, and we've had this award belong to the AFC quarterback, whether it be Lamar or Mahomes, for many of the last several years. If you can get a new name in there, if you can get someone to supplant one of those two guys, that I think is going to be a big thing for voters. Allen also has more responsibility in that Bills offense than he has previously. Stephon Diggs out of the building, offensive coordinator change. If that offense is good, which I like the line, I like the running game, and I like a lot of what Joe Brady
Yeah.
did last year. If that offense is good, a ton of the credit will get siloed on Allen. Think about what happened to the Niners this year. Oh, Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, right? Some of it gets
Right.
defrayed a little bit. A lot of that credit will get siloed right in on Allen. Typically, when when we have a quarterback win MVP, it's always a quarterback. It is typically the team that wins the conference in the regular season, right? So, of the 13 quarterbacks who've won it since 2010, because
Yeah.
Adrian Peterson 1 year, 11 of the 13 did. They got the number one seed in their conference, and so that's the challenge. If you're taking somebody out of the AFC, is they have to be able to supplant the Chiefs or the Ravens for that top spot. But the Chiefs weren't that great in the regular season. We think the Ravens might take a step back, and so I think if the Bills, right, if they get dominant Allen, which is what they've typically been getting, and not crazy injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and a little bit more stability at coordinator, and they have a good season, I think all that credit will funnel right to Allen. I think he'll win the award.
I thought about Allen. So the favorites right now, it's Mahomes and then Allen, and then last I checked, Burrow, Stroud, Jackson. Um, Allen to me is the most likely competitor to Mahomes for all the reasons you've outlined. And I think this Bills offense is actually going to be fine.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be efficient. I think Josh Allen has already proven that he's willing to play efficient, careful football. That said, I don't think he can beat Patrick Mahomes if, as I expect, the Chiefs offense, pardon me, returns to dominance. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I just got to ride with Mahomes on it. I know it's boring. I'm just, this is
So
the
as someone who's had
most boring award. We're starting here. I get it. we won't even dwell on this very long. I just think the Chiefs offense is going to be people are going to be reminded of like what an explosive because it's been a while, right? It's not even
Mhm.
like we look at last year as being this wow, Patrick Mahomes is never going to play with a worse supporting cast than that, and they were so challenged and these penalties, and at times it felt like they were actively sabotaging him. But really, the lack of explosiveness predates last year. If we go back to bombs away, Mahomes, it's just going to be really, really difficult, I think, for him not to win.
So and that's the thing is I've been on paternity leave. I've had all my takes scrolled away for like 2
Yeah,
months.
let's go.
I'm I'm fading the Chiefs offense this year. I'm
Ooh,
suspicious.
I don't like this.
I'm suspicious of their ability to return to bombs away. I have never been a big Marquise Brown guy. I think that he's a handy player. I don't like him as a high volume player. Xavier Worthy, this dude, the number one thing that's driven me nuts over the summer is everybody being like, "How did the Bills let the Chiefs get Xavier? How could they possibly have traded back Xavier Worthy?" Firstly, like 4 receivers went before the guy. It's not like this. Like we have seen John Ross go to the league and fail. We have seen Miko Hardman was a track star, turn out 4-3 40-yard dash to the Chiefs. He didn't work for them. They've tried this before, right? Like he's going to the Chiefs and he's fast. This will work. The last 6 fast guys here did it. I don't think they're going to as easily push the ball down the field with this very, very small wide receiver room. If they get continued Travis Kelce regular season, aging, I want to be nice to the guy. He's a great player, but he's absolutely is not the 90% of the snaps guy he used to be. And if Rashee Rice gets suspended, I'm left tackle, rookie left
Well,
tackle. I don't. There's a lot of uncertainty here for me.
I don't know. Greg and I were talking about this. I don't know if Rasheed Rice is going to get
I
suspended.
honestly, yeah, like hasn't happened yet.
Recently looking like he's not going to. I hear you. I did, however, just watch a single grainy training clip of Xavier Worthy looking back and not breaking a stride from approximately 60 miles an hour. So that is my counter.
I watched the clip of him getting
I
pressed.
know.
I
I
was
saw
him getting
that clip
deleted.
too, little fella.
I have a rule, which is you have to be bigger than me for me to respect you as a football player. And Xavier Worthy does not clear the bar, unfortunately. That's the tough reality of things.
I would be a lot more worried about Worthy if he was playing for anyone but Andy Reid, who is going to find ways to get him free releases. And I just think I hear you, but here's the thing: like this is all. The Chiefs' offense was 8th in DVOA last year.
Yeah,
The
I
year
think they're
that
going to
they
be
were
good again by
horrible.
running the football and being physical. I don't think they're going to be.
Well, defense are going to probably play them with a lot of too high and
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah, I think you could make a case for those two guys. And Mahomes, obviously, to your point about the narrative stuff, Mahomes has won it twice. I do think, however, uh, but voters, the way folks talk about him, he also gets that the narrative of like, okay, he went through hell last year. Let's reward
Sure.
him.
Yeah.
I just think there's counter narratives here at work. Okay, let's boring. Mahomes and Allen, groundbreaking stuff. Florals in spring. Let's get to the dark horses. So I want to read the favorites again because that's pertinent to this list before I give you mine.
Mm-hmm.
This is I got this a week ago. It might have changed. Justin Herbert got hurt, so I saw Mahomes, Allen. I'm reading in order, most to least likely. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Stroud, Jackson, Herbert, Love, Prescott, Purdy. So that's your top 8 there. Can I interest you in some Matthew Stafford MVP stock?
I
didn't think that would be a dark horse until I looked at the betting odds.
Mm-hmm.
I think this offense is going to be unreal this season. I had them second on my offenses pod. When Matthew Stafford returned from his injury, second in QBR, when him and Kyren Williams on the field, this was tied with the Niners for the most efficient offense in football. They doubled down on protecting him and the run game. I was just at Rams camp. Cooper Kupp looks great. What would give you hesitation about Matthew Stafford just going absolutely nuclear this year?
I think the fact that he will have to go thermonuclear is a little bit of the problem. I think this Rams defense is really rough. And I think that the Rams might not win enough games for Stafford to reach that MVP level. That's the thing we have to remember. This is a narrative award. It's also a who wins games award, right? Like I said, typically the first seed in the conference, that quarterback is the one who ends up winning this award. I know it's a who wins game award because I watched what happened to the odds last year for Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson. So they're all up there, and then Dak loses, he's gone. Brock loses, he's gone, right? This comes down to kind of who wins those games late to break the ties. So my concern with Stafford is that he is going to have 5,000 passing yards. And he is going to have 40 throwing touchdowns. because they're in a hole and they're in shootouts a lot more often than you'd like for them to be. So offense wise, I very much agree with you. They have had some offensive line injuries so far in camp. That is a little bit of like a frail group. But I agree with you in terms of the talent, in terms of how he's going to be used. Absolutely. I'm just worried the Rams themselves aren't going to be good enough.
I think that's fair. I also
Mhm.
think if they're down, we're going to see a lot of fourth quarter Matthew Stafford comeback drives, and people love comeback drives. There's nothing that's more overrated from a narrative perspective than comeback drives. Okay, who you got? Dark horse.
Stafford getting a Super Bowl win and then an MVP coming off those Lions teams, man. Like that would truly be one of the great career, like late career resurgences ever for
Yeah.
an NFL
I mean,
player.
it would certainly
Yeah.
help his Hall of Fame case. That's for sure.
So I mean, like, listen, objectively speaking, from a smart betting perspective, you should take Brock Purdy 16-1. I don't want to do it. Nobody wants to do
I
it.
thought about that. But
It's
statistically, he can't have as good of a season as he did last year, right? And
it's
he
true,
went
right? He's gonna step back no matter what. I just think it's like almost inevitably at some point in the season, his odds are going to be way shorter than 16-1 because they're going to be winning a ton of games. He's going to be scoring a ton of points.
And then we're gonna have
So
all stupid debates again. Yeah.
yeah, I thought about Brock for a little bit. The guy that I honestly think is worth the investment is Jared Goff at 25-1.
Ooh,
Yeah, right.
I like
I mean, they're going to be
honorary Brock Purdy.
yes, exactly right. The NFC version of Brock Purdy. Talked about the one seed thing.
Mhm.
They're going to win a ton of games. They're going to be a little bit run heavy, which is concerning. But Goff has already shown that he can really be very efficient as a passer in that run heavy offense. Right, play action. They rip off a ton of big gains. This is not a team that added a new star receiver, brought in a new head coach, right? Talking about, again, how do we silo credit when teams succeed? I mean, if this passing attack is on fire, they're not giving like, oh, let's give Ben Johnson assistant coordinator. Everybody's over that. Ben Johnson's the old news. It's going to be the fact that Jared Goff is now right, having that 40 touchdown, 10 interception, 4,500 yard season. So Goff just for the passing volume, for the success of this team, their only losses were interior offensive line, which I'm a little worried about the interior offensive line, but obviously Jared Goff great against pressure, so good at responding in the pocket. I'm sure he's going to be fine.
You wait. You're a little worried because they added Kevin Zeitler. Obviously, lost Jonah Jackson. Do you feel like that's a downgrade or?
Yeah, so the Jonah Jackson to Zeitler is tricky because I think Jonah was such a good player, but he'd get banged up quite a bit, and that's the issue the Rams are dealing with right now. So you bring in Kevin Zeitler, who Zeitler's been an Iron Man over his career. If you watch Zeitler late in the season for the Ravens last couple of years, he doesn't have the legs that he used to, right? And the Chiefs in particular, like people talked a lot. Oh, the Ravens run the ball, run the ball. Why aren't you running the ball?
Bully.
Watch what the Chiefs were doing to
Yeah.
the Ravens interior, right? I mean, like Zeitler was just he was probably banged up. He was probably nursing small injuries that don't get listed or talked about super much. But I don't think Zeitler is going to be the player necessarily in January that they want him to be. Then we got to talk about center Frank Ragnow, who was dealing with accrued injuries over the course of the season. Wasn't the player in January that they wanted him to be, right? Left guard Graham Glasgow, he's on the wrong side of 30. Like I think that interior's got good names. I think they look good in week 1. It's week 15 that I'm worried about.
If MVP comes down to Matthew Stafford versus Jared Goff, Dan
There it
Orlovsky might not survive.
Yeah. Nothing for Richardson? You did a little Anthony Richardson, little sophomore quarterback, dual threat excitement?
I'm not doing it. I'm excited about him, but I'm not doing that. I mean, as the dark horse kind of thing, I think you could see a little bit of buzz if he gets hot, but I think your choice is good. All right, offensive player of the year, I thought was actually a lot harder for the favorites. So last year, of course, was Christian McCaffrey. It really came down to Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb. You could throw in some other wide receivers. So McCaffrey's still the favorite. I was really looking at those top receivers again. I don't think McCaffrey's going to win again because he won last year. Maybe I could be wrong. I was looking at those top receivers again, and I was really struggling to pick between them. Did you pick one of the top receivers? And if so, who?
I did not take one of the top receivers.
Oh.
The receiver thing is always tricky because
It's very tricky.
In order to win it as a receiver, you have to be the only dude catching passes on your team, right? You look at Justin Jefferson in 2022, Cooper Kupp in 21, Michael Thomas in 2019. All these guys were just alone, right?
It's crazy. Tyreek Hill's target share, though, given that Jalen Waddle is on that team, he had a 31% target share, which was second only to Devontae Adams last year. That actually shocked me when I was looking at his numbers.
It's defrayed credit is what it is, right? They say, oh, but they have Jalen Waddle and they have Tua Tagovailoa. When you can just say other names, you lose some of the votes just again from the narrative perspective. So CeeDee Lamb is very tempting. I think that if you wanted to go super chalk, CeeDee Lamb. I really like Bijan Robinson this year for Offensive Player of the Year, the running back for the Atlanta Falcons. Bijan had just the quietest.
Wait, I'm sorry. As your favorite, not your dark horse.
Yeah, he's sixth right now in the odds that I'm looking at. So close enough, right?
Okay.
Favorite-ish.
Okay.
Yeah, my dark horse is down there, down there. He's a receiver. We'll get to him. But Bijan as my favorite, which he's not top 2, top 3, but he had one of the quietest 1,400 scrimmage yards you've ever seen last year. Like, he was just excellent week over week. They're using him design touches out of the backfield, catching the ball in the slot, and then you go online, you go to read about Bijan Robinson, everybody's disappointed. Everybody's like, why hasn't he been any better? Wonderful rookie season when you look statistically, when you look efficiency, when you look 3-down usage. He has the ability to catch the ball. He's got all that in a bag of chips. That offensive line, I thought, underwhelmed last year. Now that they're moving over to a Zach Robinson offense, a Rams-inspired offense that has produced a running back offensive player of the year before. That was 2017 Todd Gurley. Robinson not on that team, but obviously similar system. And the really important thing here is the usage. Man, Kyron Williams last year, when they had him on the field, ain't nobody else getting the football. All right. When Kyron had 12 healthy games, he took at least 70% of the snaps in all 12 of the games, right? He had 71 red zone touches. Next running back was 15. They when they have one guy, they hammered that one guy. They used that one guy. I think the volume for Bijan is going to be enormous this season.
I like everything Falcons offense. Like, I keep buying, like, I'm just like, oh, this, or this. Yeah. Falcon. Right. Oh, who's going to make the leap? Drake London. Who's going to do that? Kyle Pitts, whatever. So I hear you on all that. And I also think like Bijan Robinson is a good choice for this because, he already has like the name recognition. I don't know. I just think one of these receivers, to me, like we live in like such a golden age of elite wide receiver play right now, and I think one of the big 4 or 5 is going to put up the kind of numbers that'll be hard not to.
Here's my thing with receiver: you kind of have to set a record in order to get it.
Yeah.
Like, Thomas was most receptions, Cup was Triple Crown, Jefferson was like kind of career, right? It was over. He set marks for like in a player's first 3 seasons, first 3 career years. So like that one, like he didn't do it in that season. But as a receiver, like right, you brought up Tyreek Hill's season last year. Like, Tyreek was on pace for 2,000 yards. Obviously didn't hit it, but he lost the award. Like, if you have an amazing season, they don't. It's not a shoo-in at wide receiver.
He had over 4 yards per route run, which is like never happened.
It's preposterous.
So I'm not going off stats here. I, again, feel like, I know this is kind of like, we don't want to talk too much about storylines and optics, but that is like kind of how these awards get decided. I'm going with Jefferson just because I think he is going to benefit. He's going to get the rookie. He helped the rookie quarterback bump this year. I think that offense, regardless of whether it's Darnold, and he might actually play with 2 quarterbacks or whatever, but whoever is playing quarterback, I think he is also going to be extremely productive. I think there's just too many good players. Pass protection is too good. Kevin O'Connell is too good not to. And I also think he's just the best wide receiver in the NFL. And, like to me, like coming off of the injury, I'm not terribly worried about him. Also, just how productive he was before last year. It's crazy. He when you look at pull up stats, you still see him there at the top, even though he missed so much of the season. So yeah, I'm going with Jefferson. That for my dark horse, I'm going with another wide receiver. Do you want to guess who it is?
I have a receiver. Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, it's Garrett Wilson. Yeah,
dude, it's so tempting.
Yeah,
he's so good. Rodgers loves to funnel wide receiver ones, right? Devontae Adams had like 170 targets in 2021, right? I mean, he will, if he has a guy, if you trust that guy, he will funnel him targets. And that's if there's other good receivers. Look at the Jets depth chart, right? Yes. If Mike Will gets hurt, he's the only one. He perfectly fits what you're looking for.
Yeah. I think Garrett Wilson, frankly, he's blown away I liked him coming out of college. I didn't think he would be as good as he's been, just as a route runner, hands. He's so quarterback friendly with his style of play, the way he finds spaces in zone. He beats man coverage. He, to me, is going to, if Rodgers is healthy, is going to put up astronomical numbers in this offense. I think, let me look at that. Breece Hall is a little bit down there, but he actually has higher odds for this award than Garrett Wilson. I think he's going to go crazy this year as well. Mm-hmm. So that would be my only concern, is kind of like splitting the vote between those two, because I think they're both going to be super, super, super prolific in this offense if Aaron Rodgers is healthy and looks okay. All right. Defensive player of the year. So last year, of course, was Myles Garrett. When you look at the top, it's all top of the odds. It's all pass rushers, all of whom have won. So there's not like a this guy has been denied, except one guy who I'm going to throw out.
Yeah, looking at
Mad
Max.
Max.
Looking at Max, yeah, Max,
Is he your guy
my
too?
favorite pick as well. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we talked about this a little bit on the AFC West pod, just the addition of Christian Wilkins on that defensive line. But it's not just him; they have so much depth there. But and the thing is, like, so last year Garrett was my pick,
Hmm.
in large part because Miles Garrett was by leaps and bounds the most double teamed edge rusher in the NFL before last year. So my thinking was you add Zadarius Smith, Jim Schwartz defense, circumstances are going to allow him to break out, and this defense is going to be a lot better. I kind of copy paste that a little bit with Max Crosby. I think this defense is going to start getting a lot of notice, even if the offense isn't particularly good. This is the kind of team that just is, if they win, it's going to be because they're dragging teams to hell, which we saw kind of in the second half last season. And then I think the addition of Christian Wilkins, pardon me. So Crosby was the 8th highest double teamed defensive lineman in the NFL. I expect that figure to go down a little bit this season. He didn't have the sacks last year, but he led the NFL in pressures. So a lot of the underlying statistics suggest he is due to reap more sacks. And if there's any improvement on the back end, which has been, really the problem with this defense in recent years,
Hmm.
I think he should benefit from that.
The other thing that he'll benefit from is improvement in the offense because he'll actually be in sack scripts, right? A big part of the issue with Crosby accumulating the sacks that you need to win this award is third quarter, fourth quarter, Raiders are down multiple scores. You ain't getting dropbacks, right? And if you're not getting dropbacks, and obviously he's an Iron Man, he stays on the field, you're not going to accumulate the sacks that you need. Honestly, that Iron Man aspect is also a really important part of this. Crosby takes more snaps than any other pass rusher. He
Yeah.
does. He had more defensive pass rush snaps last year than anybody else in the league. More snaps is more sacks, and this is a counting stat award. Defensive player of the year, like we get into such weeds with like how does TJ Watt affect it? Michael Parsons' uniqueness, like when we're in week 13, week 14, we'll be talking about all this like 201, 301 level stuff, but fundamentally. This stat is a do we know your name? Or excuse me, this award is a do we know your name? Did you have a lot of sacks award?
I
Right?
know.
Trevon Diggs had 11 interceptions in 2021 and didn't get a
Yeah.
vote because TJ Watt had 22 sacks. So
Deron
this
Bland had like 20 pick sixes. That's an
right.
exaggeration,
It
but
is a
it's
counting stat award for edge rushers.
sacks. I
Yeah,
know, which is why I wanted to actually pick Fred Warner as a dark horse just as an FU because he should
never.
win, but he will never win.
Yeah.
Who is your dark horse?
So I will say I did like Aiden Hutchinson at 16-1. Very similar reasons to Crosby. He's the third most pass rushing snaps. Lions are going to be leading a lot of games. He has that big name recognition, right? I don't super love the film, but he has an 18 sack season in him. Like that's absolutely there, and I think that he's got to run hot. The other guy's got to run cold, and he's there. I'm still staying with edge rusher for my long shot. You really can't pick a position that's not edge rusher. You have to get just like very lucky with interceptions. The guy I like is Daniil Hodder, 32-1.
I went with Anderson Jr., but
You went
Hunter's more of a dark horse because his odds are worse. I think
Yeah.
Anderson has slightly better odds, if I remember correctly.
So this is right.
One of them, though, is
The
the great
tricky
thing.
thing about Houston is that they're deep. And last year, D'Amico really did a lines thing, right? Where like nobody had too many rushes. He was rotating guys and changing sides and making sure that everybody stayed fresh. So you're worried, okay, like what if I don't get enough volume? But then you remember Nick Bosa, 2022, won this award. Again, playing on a little bit of a hockey line, but still, like they gave him some premier reps. They gave him an extra boost of reps, and he was able to win this award in a D'Amico defense. They let John Grenard leave, and John Grenard was objectively a good rusher, and they objectively liked him. They let him leave for Daniil Hunter. That tells me they think Daniil Hunter is the ace. That tells me they think Daniil Hunter is the guy. And obviously, they believe that in Will Anderson as well. But what was Anderson's scouting report coming out, right? 3-down player, run defense, right? And they kind of use him in that way. They'd use him on stunts, right? He's a 5-tool player. Hunter's the Lamborghini. Hunter's the Porsche in the garage, right? He's the 17 sack, 18 sack guy. I prefer Hunter if I'm buying a defense player.
And he probably doesn't get the credit he deserves, frankly. Like I view him as a top 10 edge rusher. I'm not even sure if he gets talked about in that way.
Mhm.
I don't know, I have my finger on the pulse of things, but he is more of a finisher. Like Anderson Jr., one of the cases for him is like advanced stats loved him. Pass rush win, unbelievable. Pressure rate, all like he just, he didn't finish, which you kind of think, okay, well, maybe that's going to happen this year, unless you got Daniil Hunter opposite him, he might be more of it. It really is like picking between them is like kind of picking just who's going to get more sacks,
Yep.
honestly. And either one I think would be good choices.
If I
Yeah,
ask myself, it's like 3rd and 8, and D'Amico's scheming up somebody to have a one-on-one, who is it? My answer to that is Daniil, and that's why I prefer him to Will Anderson for picking something like
you've
this.
changed my mind. I like Danielle Hunter, and the odds are better. Okay, let's wrap with offensive rookie of the year, and then we'll do defensive rookie of the year after the break. I think there's two very likely choices. One is a quarterback, and one is a wide receiver.
Mhm.
And I was torn. So the obvious choice is the favorite, Caleb Williams.
Mhm.
My
Boo.
only hesitation with him is I do think it's funny. We were joking in our NFL Live group chat about one of the like the morning shows. We're like, can Caleb Williams be this year's CJ Stroud? And that's actually the case against him, I think, is following one of the best rookie
Yeah, right.
campaigns we've ever seen. I actually think could hurt him in this regard,
That's a
even
good
though
point.
I expect him to be very good. I expect this offense to be good. Whereas Marvin Harrison Jr. gets to come in number one. He also gets to benefit from playing in an offense that nobody realized was actually not complete last year. So the Cardinals run game, I've talked about this a lot,
Mhm.
awesome. Kyler Murray still working through some stuff, but Drew Petzing, we like it. Marvin Harrison Jr. walks in day one. He's the number one wide receiver. And I actually think it's not like he's being dropped into the wilderness. He's been dropped into an offense that actually some of the dynamics of that offense really work in his favor because they're so good at running the football, because they have an ascendant tight end, because you have a quarterback who is showed last year, I think at minimum, that he is still a dynamic dual threat. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets tagged with like oh wow, Marvin Harrison Jr., this Cardinals offense is cooking and he is the prince that was promised. So I actually don't, I'm drawn to that over Williams in some ways. I'll probably end up picking Williams anyways though.
This is one of my least favorite awards, both to watch and also handicap, because if you are just a quarterback who starts enough games and you don't lose all of them,
Yeah.
you can win the award over. Like we had in 2019, Josh Jacobs had 1,300 scrimmage yards. Kyler wins it over him. In 2020, Jonathan Taylor had almost 1,500 scrimmage yards and 12 touchdowns, and Herbert won it. And again, like Kyler and Herbert had good rookie seasons, but like these guys are having like emphatically franchise changing, clear starter, one of the top players of their position seasons. And so long as you're like, hey, the rookie quarterback's good. There we go. You tend Puka Nacua set rookie receiving records last
I
year, and CJ
know.
Stroud very deservingly, but it was close, got the award. And so I can see a world where Marv has a great season and is wide receiver one for the Cardinals. He walks in, he's beating opposing corner ones from day one.
Doubles.
Yeah, and it's
Brackets.
like, man, Caleb and the Bears went, you know, 8-6 in his starts. Go, and then the award goes in kind of
Yeah.
just because you need that from a quarterback. And so I don't have Marv as my pick for the favorite. I'm probably taking Caleb. If I'm taking a different guy, Jaden Daniels wouldn't shock me if he won it as a favorite, just because he's going to play all 17 games assuming he doesn't get hurt, and he's going to run around and just put preposterous plays and preposterous stats on film. I think about that 2012 year where it was Griffin, Andrew Luck, and Russell Wilson. Are you familiar
Yeah.
with this year, this rookie of the year conversation between Luck, Griffin, and Russ? But Griffin wins it between those three quarterbacks in large part because what it felt like when his rushing ability dawned, right? Where you kind of saw what that could be in the field. We obviously live in a different time than we did then, but still, like if he's out there running around and breaking tackles, people are going to be excited about that.
Who's your dark horse here? Let me guess. Keon Coleman.
No, Drake
Okay.
May.
Okay. Yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, we
yeah,
can go with dark horse. Yeah.
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 So Drake May is
Forgot about
25-1 at the book that I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And that's below JJ McCarthy and below Bo Nix, which I think is like, firstly, I would say May is more likely to start more games than JJ McCarthy. So that to me is perplexing. Bo Nix, like I suppose Bo could start more games. The issue is that like Drake is split in time. He's getting reps with the ones. Like they're very clearly looking for an opportunity to get him in there early. So I think he can start enough games to win this award, right? You can't start like 6. Like Deshaun Watson only had 6 starts and like barely got a vote. You need to have like at least 10, 12. I think he's going to get to that number. And then you say, well, Ben, like the Patriots are going to stink. Like Drake can't win the award if the Patriots stink. No, that's the point. If
Yeah.
the Patriots are good, Drake, if Drake starts and the Patriots win like 8 games, which is not outside the realm of possibility. This was a top 5 defense last year. Drake's getting this award in a heartbeat just because of the surprise factor of him getting that job early and the Patriots being less than totally embarrassing. And so I like May as the dark horse. All he's got to do is win the job.
For me, it was between May, Worthy, and Coleman, just who are clustered around the same spot in terms of betting odds. And I seriously considered May. I really thought about Coleman because like we talked about earlier, I think this Bills offense is going to be pretty good. However, I think that the Bills offense is going to be pretty democratic. Worthy, I ultimately would probably be my dark horse pick, just because I could see him having like a huge touchdowns in like prime time and like. Yeah. But this is the dark horse. Like I think it's going to be Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. are to me the clear favorites for this one.
Neighbors also is interesting to me. He's kind of right in the middle, but again, going back to nobody else to catch the ball theorem, like he's just going to get volume on volume.
All right, let's come back. That wasn't a Marvin or Malik Neighbors. That was about
other Giant players.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break. Come back and talk about an award that I'm actually quite excited about. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer: hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app; it's an empire. Defensive Rookie of the Year. We're back with Ben Solak to talk about the NFL awards. I am all in on Laiatu Latu, man.
Yeah?
I am eating up my... You know how your For You page on Twitter, like, it knows what makes you mad, and then it knows what you like? Mm-hmm. I have been getting so many Laiatu Latu, like, training camp. Laiatu Latu wins again. Laiatu Latu puts Bernard Raymond on skates or whatever. I'm making that one up. But point is, I was all in on him as a prospect. I absolutely loved his tape. I love this situation. And unfortunately, with the injury of Samson Ebukam, who, by the way, watching the Colts, really good last year. That's actually a pretty bad loss for them. I think there's going to be increased opportunity for him on a defensive line that is like good, but there's no like superstar names. Mm-hmm. Buckner is, I guess, the closest. He's still very good. I think Laiatu Latu is going to absolutely cook. He's not the favorite. It's Dallas Turner, but he, to me, should be the pick.
Yeah, no, I would take him over Turner every single time, right? And obviously Turner stepping into a spot where Daniel Hunter just had 17.5 sacks. Those are vacated. Brian Flores are going to blitz a ton. They're going to create pressure. But I think there's a much better chance that Latu gets consistent reps than Turner. I think Latu's a lot more pro-ready than Turner was coming out. Defensive Rookie of the Year, it's a very tough one to bet on this year because 21 of the 24 winners since 2000 were picked in the first round. 20 of those 21 were picked in the top half of the first round. This is an award that goes to name recognition. It goes to top guys. Again, Will Anderson last year getting it over Kobe Turner as your like one, point in a case. Like if you have to be an early drafted name, everybody's got to know you. There were only 2 defensive players taken in the first half of the top round this year, and they were taken up 15 and 16. So we just don't have the guys that we usually do to pick from this award. Those 2 players are Laiatu Latu, who I think is a great pick, and then Byron Murphy, the defensive tackle for the Seattle Seahawks, was just... This award does not typically go to defensive tackles. It's gone to Ndamukong Suh, Aaron Donald, and kind of Sheldon Richardson. He was like a 3-4 defensive end. So yeah, I think like of your favorites, Latu is the best option. I'm kind of interested in Byron Murphy just because McDonald defense and he's such a talented player, but like that's a pretty crowded room. So I'm not sure he's going to get the snaps he needs.
Yeah, defensive tackle is actually pretty stacked in Seattle relative to other positions. Dark horse, I went with kind of similar logic of opportunity and sacks. This is not, I don't think it's going to pan out this way, but Chop Robinson.
That's my guy. And when you were saying, I was like, oh, she's on Chop. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, again, so opportunity there. It actually saw reports that Jalen Phillips has been running around a little bit. So that's great for Miami if that's the case. Obviously, Bradley Chubb is still banged up. They brought back Emmanuel Ogbah, but Robinson is going to get more run early on than I think he would in other situations. He's pretty raw, but extremely athletic and talented. Another guy who I'm seeing positive training camp reports on. Again, I don't know what to make of that, but I'm just looking at a team where if this Miami offense is as good as they've been early on in the year, as they've been recently, and I
Mhm.
think we all expect. They will be up with leads, playing with leads. He will have opportunities to get after the quarterback in big moments, and I think he's a good dark horse pick.
Yeah, and let's say like he gets 400 snaps in the season, and Jared Verse gets 400 snaps in the season, but I promise you, all 400 Chop Robinson snaps are going to be pass rush, right? Verse, play the run, 3 down. Chop's
Yeah.
got one speed right now, and let's go get him. And so there's going to be opportunities to pick up sacks. I think, especially right as Chubb and as Jalen Phillips come back from injury. I just think like he's got to have spike weeks, but if he has spike weeks, he's the first round pick, Penn State. Like he's going to have the splashy plays. So he's there for me. The other dark horse that I thought about, because when this award doesn't go to top drafted players, it typically goes to linebackers who just accumulate a ton of tackles, right? You think about Shaq Leonard, 2018, D'Amico
That's
Ryans,
fair.
2006, uh, Junior Colson, linebacker, Los Angeles Chargers,
Nah, we're not doing that.
with
Nah,
his
stop.
college DC. Nobody had him on the depth chart. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
I heard on your show, Shield presented the Chargers. I told you this as like a team with like some playoff buzz, and that I think I get it. Although the Justin Herbert injuries got me a little bit concerned, but this defense, I'm happy to be on the record and loud wrong about
Right.
selling this defense.
Their
It
defensive tackle is
blows
going
my
to be
mind
bad. He's going
that
to get a
other
bunch of
people don't.
tackles.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. You're talking about tackles. That's fine. Okay, Coach of the Year. Unfortunately, folks, this is the most narrative-y of the narrative awards that ever narratived. So we're gonna have to get into that. So Kevin Stefanski won last year, beating D'Amico Ryans.
Shame.
Shame.
I was up in my room. I was pacing.
I
I was
voted for
so mad.
Ryans. I voted
I
for
was
Ryans. Stefanski
mad.
was my second choice, and Shane Steichen was my third choice.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna read the names, the betting favorites here, because I think just it makes it easier. Eberflus, Matt Eberflus is the favorite. I can see why, because let's say that for this award, voters tend to like turnaround jobs, or they like a team that surpassed expectations, a
That's the big
team
thing,
that
yeah.
made history, a team that maybe made a playoff run that no one seen coming. So it makes sense that they would go to a guy like Eberflus, rookie quarterback, haven't had an answer there in a long time, team that I think a lot of people view as like a dark horse, not dark horse, like a just outside kind of wild card contender. So that makes sense. So you got Eberflus, you got Jim Harbaugh, similar reasons, again, turnaround and all that, the Staley bump. Raheem Morris, again, rookie quarterback, or not rookie quarterback, probably turnarounds. Matt LaFleur, Shane Steichen.
Lifetime Achievement Award for Matt LaFleur. Like, hey, you probably should have won this before.
I
We'll give
know.
it to you
So
now.
right.
Yeah.
That's, yes. Shane Steichen, D'Amico Ryans, who unfortunately, Jonathan Cannon, Robert Salo, Brian Callahan, Mike McDonald. So it's a lot of new coaches in new places where they want to reward you for turning it around. My pick is Steichen.
Yeah.
So you talked earlier about Anthony Richardson and who's going to get credit if that happens. And I thought he was an absolutely solid contender last year for what he did with that offense, despite pretty inconsistent quarterback play. If this Colts team is as feisty as we think, they were knocking on the door of the playoffs. If Richardson takes the leap that a lot of people believe he's capable of, I think Steichen will be the biggest beneficiary in the awards department.
Yeah, Steichen is my first name that's down. One of the things that you do see when you go and you look back at who's won this award, usually it's a team that walked into the season with about 9.5, 7.5 preseason win total, right? It's usually somewhere right about in that range. And then they're winning double digit games and they're making the playoffs. And so Steichen, who I think is in a soft division, right? But excuse me, Houston Texans, but is in a conference where he's going to be able to make the wild card round. We saw them on the edge of it last season with Gardner Minshew. With right a second year quarterback as well. If you go and you look at John Harbaugh winning this with Lamar in his second year as a pro, Matt Nagy won this with Trubisky in his second year as a pro, McVay won this, Jared Goff his second year as a pro. It's like, okay, we can't give the quarterback rookie of the year, but we got to give somebody something. And so they default to coach of the year. I think that makes the narrative pretty nice for Steichen.
He also is the play caller. He calls a very specific offense. I think,
trust me, I miss it as an Eagles fan, man. I miss it dearly.
I think people will watch. If Anthony Richardson is successful this year, people will look to him and applaud what he has done. I also think he benefits from what happened in Philly after his departure. He gets the old positive by a negative case there. I have a dark horse that I think is kind of interesting. That wasn't amongst the names that I laid out. How about Kevin O'Connell?
Hey, dude, it's one of the first bets I took this season was Kevin O'Connell, coach of the year. Absolutely, he's gonna cure Darnold and go to the playoffs with Sam. It's
Whether
gonna be
he
amazing.
cures Darnold or JJ McCarthy looks good in his offense, he benefits
Right.
from both cases. He also has an excellent defensive coordinator who just got a little bit more ammunition to be more solid on defense this year. I think Kevin O'Connell is quietly one of the better play callers in the NFL. I've been
Yes.
so impressed by him over the last couple of years. The adjustments he's made. I love the way he talks about his offense too.
See, that's the
Um,
thing is I
yeah.
want Kevin O'Connell to win it because I stood at Kevin O'Connell's presser in Indy and I did the thing where I was like, I like the cut of this guy's jib.
Well,
I like the way he talks. He's
yeah.
really and you can tell you can watch him talk and then see the offense he runs and figure out like, oh, this is such a complex offense and it's such an intentional offense and it requires a communicator like this to get it to his assistant coaches and get it to his players. And that's honestly what interests me the most is that he had the grown up of all grown ups, the original West Coast Sean McVay robot
Quarterback.
in Kirk Cousins at quarterback,
Yeah.
where he could just plug and chug in like they led the league on our center dropbacks, all this play action stuff. Like there's hard stuff in this offense. There's challenging things to do. If he can get that to, I love you, Sam, but seeing go Sam Darnold or rookie 20-year-old JJ McCarthy, if
Either
he
way,
can get it
it's a
there,
win for him, I
give
think.
it to
Yeah.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously, from a talent perspective, the Vikings are loaded.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was just so impressed by the work he did with his, the carousel of quarterbacks. He also, I think, has a great feel for individual game planning. The way he's attacked certain defenses over the last couple of years has been really impressive to me. I really like this pick. All
Yeah.
right.
I don't know what the Kevin O'Connell's hive name is, but I'm here. I'm
Well, the
very
problem with
excited
There's
this
a
year.
lot of KOCs out there,
Yeah.
so there are 2 Kevin O'Connells in media. So
Mhm. I will say I did give a moment's look to Mike McDaniel in Seattle. 7.5 win
or McDonald, yeah.
total. Get
By
Gino,
the way,
that offense, like, I think could turn around really quick, make the playoffs, get that first time head coach bump. That's
you,
always nice.
you got felled there by Mike McDaniel. That's going to happen about 500 times this year.
Oh,
By the way,
frick
all
me.
of us.
Mike McDonald.
Yeah,
I
no, I
didn't
like
even
that too.
notice it.
I like that too. I had some interest in that one as well.
Mhm.
Okay. Assistant coach of the year. So the reason I wanted to talk about this is because it actually matters a lot. So last year was Jim Schwartz. I think I'm using the AP. There's a couple of different votes for it.
I'm
Or
looking
the
at
Pro
AP.
Football
Yeah, yeah.
Writers of America. I don't know. So I think this is the P to FWA. Before Jim Schwartz, the assistant coaches of the year were D'Amico Ryans, Dan Quinn, and Brian Dable. I mention that because they are all. Wait, was it Dan Quinn?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dan
yeah.
Quinn, 2021,
Okay,
first year.
so I mention that because those are all NFL coaches. So this award matters.
Mhm.
Whoever wins has a good shot of being an NFL head coach. So that's why it matters. I didn't find odds for this. Doesn't matter. So I
Mhm.
just wrote down a zillion names of guys who I think could win it. And this one is not super. It's too nerdy to be narrative driven. Like it
It is.
actually tends to just go to
This is where the film heads live as an assistant coach of the year. All right, we're dedicated.
pure posters. Okay, I'm going to read a bunch of names that I considered to you, and then I want you to tell me for favorites. And I want you to tell me if any of these names were the ones you picked.
Yep.
Joe Brady, Todd Monken, Arthur Smith, Bobby Slowick, Ryan Nielsen, Patrick Graham,
Ooh, Nielsen's a good one.
Shane Bowen, Ben Johnson, who's never won, Jeff Halfley, Brian Flores, Shane Waldron, Ryan Grubb, Drew Petzing.
All right, I had Petzing, I had
Okay.
Joe Brady, I had Ryan Nielsen, I had Halfley. Did you say Flores?
I did not.
Yeah, and then
Yeah,
so then I also
you should-
had
you should
Brian
be-
Flores. I had Dan Pitcher, who's the new OC of the Cincinnati Bengals, promoted quarterbacks coach, and then I have Aaron Glenn, who's the DC of the Lions. And the guy I like the most, like if I had to pick one, would be Aaron Glenn, who, like you said, you see a lot of guys who
I
are
didn't even name him. Wow.
yeah. So you see a lot of guys on this list who are potential future head coaches, and we know that Glenn has interviewed for those positions before. This also is a little bit of a not like lifetime achievement is the wrong answer, but like this award definitely does go to guys who have been around. Look at Jim Schwartz, Dan Quinn, Greg Roman, Vic Fangio, Pat Shermer, Wade Phillips. Like it goes to guys who like have a little bit of longevity to them. They don't love to give it to like Bobby Slowick, you know.
Or Vic
Uh,
Fangio is not going to win it.
Yeah, right. And so Aaron Glenn, who hasn't won it yet, remember Glenn was voted the best coordinator, the best assistant coach in the
Yeah.
league by the Players Association, right? So he's now got this reputation around him of like this excellent players coach, this guy that everybody loves to be around and whatever. And then this defense in Detroit, they've not figured it out. They've not been perfect, and they've get blown up by the Ravens in week 6. But from a film perspective, they have brought along young players quite nicely, and they've just been waiting to solve the coverage issue. And if Carlton Davis, Terran Arnold, and Ennis Rakestraw do that for them, which I have some confidence that they will, I think that you can see this defense actually go from pretty bad to pretty good overnight. And I think if that happens, I think Aaron Glenn's gonna be a good candidate.
So you think Ben Johnson and Slowick are too? They've gotten too much credit already?
Maybe, I don't know. Like I don't I don't
It's
think.
hard to read.
Yeah, the problem is like anybody could win this award. You're talking about
So
any assistant coach. Like, yeah, they can
I
get there.
know. I like Patrick Graham and Joe Brady for this one. Joe
Patrick
Brady,
Graham's a good deep cut.
Patrick Graham, because I think he has the personnel now to get a little bit funkier on defense. It's not just patching holes on the back end. That if that defensive line is as good as we think, I think Joe Brady. For first of all, I think he will benefit from the offense. Sort of everything you talked about at the beginning with Josh Allen, and like this perception of like this,
Mhm.
not having a lot of talent to work with, and they're going to have more motion and different personnel groups, so it's going to be a little bit buzzy this
Right.
year. He also like has like a ton of support in the media.
I'm about to say
Right?
he's got the name.
Yeah,
He's
he's
got the
got like
buzz. Walking around with the snapback on.
those are two guys that I like for this. My dark horse. I know this is a homer pick. I don't care. Ryan Grubb, all gas, no brakes, baby. Let's go.
Dude, I love Grubb's offense is really fun because people ask you like, "What's it like?" And you're like, "It's just cool stuff. It's just
Yeah.
heavy metal. It just like there's no system really. Like no like oh this
I was
whatever."
trying to explain it. Actually, I wanted to ask you that because somebody asked me like, well, how would you explain it? And I
Mhm.
was like, it's not. I said
Right.
it's actually closer to the Chiefs,
Yeah.
frankly,
So what
than like the
my
predominant meta in
yeah.
today's NFL.
My line to kind of describe it has been a lot of like how like back in like the McVay era like they would run wide zone run direction and then they would boot the other direction. There was this whole idea of like horizontal stretch, right? Like let's use all 53 and a third yards. Grubb is vertical stretch, right? When you look at the way they run the football with all the pullers and how often they go between the tackles, and you look at how often those play action passes are vertical stems that then break to the middle of the field late. They'll throw isolation stuff to the outside where by formation they'll guarantee they have a one-on-one outside the numbers and then they'll just chuck it down the field with that. They believe in vertical stretch. They believe in using all 100 to really get you go. They want to pull linebackers down and move safeties deep and create voids kind of up and down instead of left to right.
Question is, can you do any of that with Seahawks offensive line? That is the question. The question.
Seahawks offensive line is a top thing this year where I'm just kind of like, it'll be fine. They'll fix it. I'm just going to cover my eyes. I'm sure it'll be okay.
I will say this about Ryan Grubb.
Mhm.
We're doing the NFC West this week, so I'll get into this more. He has a really good understanding of how to work around offensive line. The Huskies offensive line was very good. I want to be clear
Mhm.
about that. But I think, and I've heard him talk a little bit about it, he endeared himself to me forever by when he was asked about Geno saying like, well, Geno didn't have any protection last year or something like that. He said the offensive line was bad. I was like, oh, Lisan Al-Gaib or whatever.
Yeah. My biggest issue with Grubb is that he gives tremendous defensive coordinator aesthetic vibes, and then he calls offense. And I don't
That's
know how
what I
feel
love. He's like that Minnesota governor dude who
right? Yeah, but he just a
he
bald
was
man
an
with
offensive line coach.
a bald man with a goatee is still salt and pepper talking to me about play action pass. I'm just like, no, you're supposed to be talking about pass rush, brother.
Yeah.
This is not for you, but it
He
is.
is the candidate we need, honestly.
He will unify the country.
I have some offline thoughts. Okay, let's wrap with executive of the year, which is sort of the opposite of assistant of the year in that it's
not who's going to get promoted.
some pretty bad ones over the years. I just think this is kind of a fun way though to think about sort of teams builds and who's been successful. So just there's two different organizations that give this award, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So last year, I really should have attributed this. I think I'm going with AP for this one. Brad Holmes won, not surprising. Howie Roseman, who loves your consensus boards, won the year before. Belichick,
Banger.
The honorary Ryan Grigson. Brandon Bean, fine. John Lynch, he's been good. Okay. I came down to two names for me. Do you want to try to guess my two names?
My one name for sure is Nick Caserio.
That was one of the two.
Yeah. And then the other one that I would say would be, and I'm going to pronounce his name right, Brian Gutekunst.
That was my other one.
There we
Gosh.
go. I can't do
Okay.
I can't get Gutekunst ever on first try. It's just it's too guttural for me.
Here are some of the people Brian Gutekunst has drafted over the last 4 years 3 years, pardon me, outside of the first round. We can
Mhm.
pretend the first round doesn't exist. Luke Musgrave, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, Tavian Wicks, Carl Brooks, Carrington Valentine,
Good
banger,
player.
banger, banger,
Players.
banger. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Zach Tom, Kingsley Enagbare, Rasheed Walker, bangers. Josh Myers, yeah, we can skip that. And then the year before was Jordan Love. I mean,
It's the team that Brian built, dude. Like
it
it
is
is, and it's funny
fully
because like I
TBD.
think sometimes GMs will really favor homegrown talent and extend them and keep them in the building because they
Yeah.
want to look like their guys are succeeding. They want the team to be the dudes they built. It's a little bit of self fulfilling prophecy. With Goody, it's like, nah, you cooked here. You're fine. This is that makes sense.
We could, yeah, like just pretend. Honestly, I actually do think so. The first round picks, I was joking. Lucas Van Ness,
Mhm.
Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Eric Stokes. Jesus.
Right.
I
It's
do
funny because
think,
like a lot of those
yeah,
players are useful, and
I
then a lot
know.
of his sixth round picks are useful, and you're like,
Yeah,
dude, if you could just like the first round, if you could just get actually good guys, and then just keep all the useful players are supposed to be day three. It's not supposed to be on day one.
yeah. He is like. You ever have a year in school where you just got like A minuses on every
Yeah.
subject?
Um. No, I was high school. I was all A pluses. Then college was all like B's and C's.
Okay. I think if the Packers are what we all think they're going to be, and if Jordan Love plays the way we think he's capable of, he will get credit for what he has done to build this team over the last few years. And if a lot of that too depends on, I think, the defensive coordinator getting better play out of those defensive players
Yeah,
happily.
I think Goody's a really good candidate. I like Casario as the name for it because I just like it, if the last three biggest moves that Casario made were Stroud, Will Anderson, and Stephon Diggs, right? Those two picks being obviously in a previous season, but then the Stephon Diggs offseason acquisition this past year, and then the Texans play in the AFC Championship game, and they do it because CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, and Stephon Diggs are stars, and it's gonna be like, all right, well, he's gonna like he's gonna be getting the shine. He's going to be getting the coverage, and he's potentially going to be getting the run. So I think Casario stood out to me for that reason. The other guy that I kind of thought about a little bit, just in terms of like, because some of these guys who get this award is because their team is surprisingly good quickly.
Correct.
I was thinking about Rand Carthen in Tennessee, who just spent a ton of money. And so if the Titans are good, and like Calvin Ridley's a big part of that,
Yeah.
and Jerry Sneed's a big part of that, and the offensive line gets better with JC Latham and Peter Skoronski. He was a Will Levis draft pick, right? Like a lot of that is I think, again, the team that Carthen built because they've turned the roster over so much.
I think I didn't see betting odds for this. I'm guessing Ryan Poles is probably a
Oh, we probably should
favorite.
have thought about Ryan Poles
Yeah,
here. Yeah.
right. Uh, Les Need is another name I'll throw out there. Obviously, has had an incredibly successful draft last year. I think a lot of that comes down to whether the defense totally implodes without Aaron Donald, or if the defense can just sustain average level of play, and either Verse or Fisky hits this year. I think that could help him in that regard. Total dark horse, Joe Douglas. If the Jets are good, might get
Listen,
some credit.
the Jets, the way the team has been built, organized, maintained, run, if Solid wins Coach of the Year, Joe Douglas wins General Manager of the Year. All the more power to him. I'm rooting for you guys.
Does Aaron Rodgers get a hat tip
Yeah.
for
Nate Hackett, assistant coach of the year. I think you could have sold me on 63 of 64 coordinators for assistant coach of the year. I think he's the 64th.
Aaron Rodgers, coach of the year. Aaron
Yeah,
Rodgers,
as
assistant
assistant
coach of
coach
the
of the
year.
year.
Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers of the year. Aaron Rodgers. Ben Solak, this has been super fun. Welcome to ESPN, bud. You want to just, for everyone who's listening,
Mhm.
this might be your first like official ESPN appearance. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Ish. I was on the radio, but this is my first pod.
Yeah. Can you kind of tell folks what to expect this year a little
Yeah,
bit?
no, absolutely. I'm very stoked to be here. A big thank you to one Mina Kimes, who was a shepherd for the entire process and for many years helped me out. So it's cool to kick things off here. Yeah, I will be writing for ESPN throughout the course of the season. You'll see if you've read my previous early week columns at places I've been before at the Ringer, then you'll see that. You'll see preview columns with betting content as well. I'll be on Mina's show. You'll hear me on ESPN Daily throughout the season on Mondays. Very exciting.
Ooh,
An old Mina Kimes stomping ground as well, ESPN Daily.
yeah.
So you'll hear me on that on Mondays throughout the season. We're recapping the actions from Sunday, and then there's a couple more things in the works that are not yet for announcement times. But yeah, it's gonna be a lot of
Amazing.
fun.
Awesome. We are very lucky to have you. I'm excited to preview games this year with you uh, pretty frequently. And yeah, I couldn't be more pumped. This is a huge, I feel like whoever hired you should win Executive of the
Executive of the year.
Year.
That's basically I'm the Jordan Love.
Offensive.
I'm the Stephon Diggs of the award.
You are about the same age as Jordan Love. I think you're like younger than Stephon Diggs. And
So
that was the last time I get to bully you about your age. Okay, guys, we will be back later this week previewing the NFC West. You can check this podcast out on youtube.com/at Mina Kimes. Also on ESPN2 on Wednesdays or ESPN
oh, I
News.
forgot about that. Shoot.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
okay, I gotta lock it in. Here we go.
Yeah, once I figure out which channel it's on. Otherwise, we'll be back then. Thanks.
Wow.